Hello and welcome back, MTG Burgeoning community. It's Sunday Fun Day, and in today's video, we are going to update our Morophon budget Sliver build. Hello, Burgeoning fans. More importantly, hello, Morophon fans. It's Sunday, so that means it's Sunday Fun Day, and we are returning with an update on our 5-color budget Sliver build with Morophon the Boundless as our general. If you missed any of the previous installments of this series, you can click on any of the links in the description below, and it'll bring you right up to speed. For starters, we completed this deck list last week, and I gameplayed, I should say. There was no testing. That was actual live gameplay. And I'm gonna shoot straight with everyone. It was very strong. I was most pleased. The mana base was smooth. I never needed to worry about color fixing. The creatures were resilient. We had great graveyard recursion, some great removal. There was one part of the deck, which we're going to address in a few moments, that we're definitely going to have to strengthen. So, with all of the games that were logged with this build, I wanted to pull out a small sampling of the all-star cards that each time I had them, they just performed so strongly that they are just integral parts of this deck. And the first one was one of the last additions, and that was the Cloud Shredder Sliver. When this guy was in play with flying and haste, with the evasion and being able to attack right away, Cloud Shredder Sliver seems to be the number one sliver that I'm gravitating towards whenever I want to go find myself a sliver. Sliver number 2, that honestly, it's in the deck. I thought it would be okay, but I had no idea it would be this strong, and that's the Megantic Sliver. I mean, I know the CMC is 6, and after our general over there, Morophon, at a CMC of 7, this is the most expensive card in the 99. When it's out there, the +3/+3 is just too tough to overcome. Megantic Sliver has just been a force out there. In addition, with the Cloud Shredder, just forget about it. All right, the next card, really, it's not going to be a surprise that this card has been so strong, but I do want to bear mention that it was game-saving, and that's Eerie Interlude. When you sit down with Slivers, you're always just wondering when the next board wipe is going to happen, and then the second board wipe, and the third and the fourth, and, well, Slivers are going to be going to the graveyard. Well, with an Eerie Interlude in our hand, we were able to save the crew. The squad was exiled. They came back into play, won us the game. Eerie Interlude has just been performing so well, and is such a good thing that we put it in the deck. And card number 4 I wanted to highlight, and that is Return of the Wild Speaker. And I'm going to be honest, I cast this multiple times during the gameplay over the past week, and it was a split. I +3/+3 the crew, and I also drew some cards. So it's not like Return of the Wild Speaker was just a one-trick pony. It helped us to draw some cards. It helped us to buff up our creatures. It did some great work, and I was very happy that we included that in the deck. And the last card of the ones I wanted to highlight as cards that have been, really performing well in this Sliver build so far, and that's going to be Shared Summons. To cast this at the end of our last opponent's turn and seek out any 2 slivers in our deck, and I'm going to be honest, every single time Cloud Shredder Sliver was one of those slivers. Now, depending on game state and whether I needed buffing or maybe some potential card draw or some kind of defense or some mana with a mana weft or a gem hide, Shared Summons was just awesome in trying to get both the Cloud Shredder Sliver and some other sliver that is necessary at the time. These 5 cards, they were absolutely just bonkers strong in the deck. They really, really were. All right, so I mentioned a few moments ago that there was one aspect of the deck that really seemed like it needs to be strengthened, and that is going to be the card draw aspect. with having so many cheap CMC spells, and slivers are a pretty cheap tribe to begin with, I tended to empty the hands so quickly in every single game, and it was tough to draw any one of the few draw spells that we had in the deck. So I took that to mean that we got to add some cantrips to this deck. So I went through, and still staying with the budget in mind, I went through and I selected 3 card drawing spells that should help us throughout the game to get some more cards into our hand. I mean, we're not talking about Sphinx's Revelation here or Expansion Explosion. Remember, we're still a budget build, so we got to build accordingly. The first card drawing spell that we're going to add is Read the Bones. It's 2 and a black. It's a sorcery. It's a common from Magic Origins. And we scry 2, and then we draw 2 cards, and we lose 2 life. So the the black is so famous for, if you want a card, it'll cost you 1 life. Well, in this instance, we get to look at the top 2 cards of our library to see if either one of or both of those cards are worthy of our life totals. And if they are, we'll draw them. If they're not, they'll go to the bottom of the library. So Read the Bones is going to go into the deck. It is going to replace, and this was the tough part of picking cards to replace, because we have at this moment, prior to the addition of these cantrip spells, we have at the moment a pretty balanced deck amongst removal, ramp, creature enhancement, battlefield enhancement. So I decided to not weaken any one area too much. So I just decided to pick 1 spell from each particular area as a way in which to strengthen the card draw by potentially weakening the other areas. But because we're drawing more cards, we'll be able to get more spells, and that'll make more sense when I start explaining some of the cards that we're getting rid of. What we're going to replace with for Read the Bones. Read the Bones is coming in, and Rampant Growth is going to come out. So we're going to keep all of our other mana ramp and mana fixing spells in, but we're going to get rid of Rampant Growth, because for 2, 1 goes into play tapped, but with Cultivate and Kodama's Reach, it's 3, 1 goes into play tapped, and 1 land goes into our hand, both basic, of course. So I figured with the CMC just being 2, and the CMC of Read the Bones being 3, it's around the same amount, with, give or take 1 colorless mana. So we're going to get rid of 1 ramp/mana fixing spell in order to add a cantrip spell. And it's going to be fine because, as I said, the mana fixing and the color casting was great. I mean, we purposely went through this deck with having as few spells with double mana symbols in the entire deck as possible. Shared Summons is 1, Mythos of Bracos is the other, and honestly, I think those are the only 2 cards in the entire deck that have double mana symbols. I'm speeding through the deck right now. Mythos of Bracos is there. Shared Summons is 1. I honestly think that there's only 2 cards, and oh no, I've just made the mistake. We got Chain Reaction, Winds of Wrath, so our our mass removal spells are doubled, but still, that's really not that bad, all things considering. That's going to be a total, that's a total of 4 spells with double mana symbols and their costs. I mean, so the fixing was not that big of a deal. It really wasn't. So getting rid of a Rampant Growth for Read the Bones, it's definitely workable. All right, so the next spell that we're going to add, Painful Truths. This is a rare, and it's another sorcery, 2 and a black. It's from Battle for Zendikar. It has the Converge mechanic, so we draw X cards and lose X life, where X is the number of colors of mana spent to cast Painful Truths. So for the purposes of, economics, we want to make sure that we use 3 colors to cast this spell, draw 3 cards, and we lose 3 life. All right, so with Painful Truths going in, the card coming out is going to be Biomancer's Familiar. And if we remember, as we flash back to when we were first installing the deck list, and we talked about Biomancer's Familiar and trying to see how it would work by reducing the activated abilities of creatures we control by 2, when we had only a few select slivers that let us do that, the Acidic Sliver, and the Mnemonic Sliver, and the Dregscape Sliver. So other than that, it really didn't come up too much. It seems like it's weighing us down. it just seems like it doesn't give the team enough, and it doesn't really help us to do anything that we want to do in the deck. I mean, we weren't mnemonic slivering our brains out or acidic slivering either. So it seems pretty easy to bring Biomancer's Familiar out in order to add a copy of Painful Truths. All right, so last cantrip spell. This is number 3. It's another black sorcery, and this one is from Commander 2015, and it is Ambition's Cost. 3 and a black. We draw 3 cards, and we lose 3 life. Okay? And so we've taken away from ramp, and we've taken away from creature enhancement. So the other area that I decided to take from was, well, we're going to take away a recursion spell. And the recursion spell that's coming out is going to be a Pheto Dredging. 3 and a black, so it's the same CMC as Ambition's Cost. And we're going to return up to 3 target creature cards of the creature type of our choice from our graveyard to our hand. So a Pheto Dredging is out, Ambition's Cost is in. And those are the revisions, the only revisions that I would want to make to this Morophon the Boundless budget Sliver deck. We got to add some more draw spells, and then that's that, folks. That is Morophon the Boundless. That is the MTG Burgeoning community, and that is a 5-color budget Sliver build hovering just underneath the $65 range. We did it, folks. We finished another Morophon the Boundless deck. Which one will be next? Stay tuned.